I'm Stephen De Jersey from, had our own practice going with my partner Louise for the last, we started in 2000, and I grew up in Townsville and then went off to the University of Queensland and then returned back and started the practice. So I had a long association. My father actually came here in '77 as a renal physician, and I think in those days he was the first renal physician outside of Brisbane. So that was kind of interesting, and that it's a real pioneering sort of thing that's happened. He's just retired the last couple of years, and now I think there's 4 renal physicians in Townsville. So he managed on his own for that long. I wanted to just start by just saying thanks to Sue and Chris, because I think all of this conversation about arts and so on just stitches back into this idea of genius loci and character of place, and working in a place and place making and all of these things. So it's such a rich bit of research that's been done, and I think it's amazing to see it kicked into Darwin, but similarly it would be great to see that work study in Townsville, and things like that could really inform stuff like the arts hub and the cultural precinct that we've been discussing and so on. So I just think that's such a rich thing to sort of plug that onto the community and really acknowledge that and go with it. Just come back to, so just in our projects, our project work, as a reflection on that over the last 12, 13 years, it's been interesting to see reflect on our line of thinking. So I spoke about this at the State Library of Queensland when I got invited to speak down there, but it's been a gradation of projects and thinking that has come about through that time period, and really started to think about, what are we doing? And some of it's forced by economic decisions about how to get clients value for money. So in some of our latest projects, we've started to use concrete masonry and timber trusses, and because that's the dominant local industry. But we're trying to use that work not in a standard way, but as an example, we're trying to get the timber trusses and invert them so we've got shapes that we can use as the ceiling rather than have the shapes on top of the roof. So, and then similarly the block work, we're sort of working out how we can change block work around so that we can actually make it self-shading. So that's the line of thinking has been along that tact, and it's been 12, 13 years. So we've sort of started to really say, well, hang on a minute, what are we doing locally? Why should we bring in homogenous ideas out of wherever they could be from wherever around the world, and try and implant them into this vicinity. Another offshoot was our Lost Spaces project, which really came about as a bunch of ideas that we had about various sites around town, and then we realised, we could actually document these things and then get them onto a website and make them accessible to everybody, and also on top of that, get the website going so that people could actually provide input back into the website and post their own ideas. So, just trying not to be too political, but one of the things thrown in there was as a response to the Cowboys Leagues Club of that horrible image that's being posted in the bulletin all the time about throwing it over onto the rail yards. We proposed, well, hang on a minute, imagine if we could actually put that Cowboys football field into the West End quarry space, which actually we worked out that it would fit with the perfect orientation. So we could put that just slightly flatten that site out, and we could actually fit that. And so if you build up the picture in your mind, you've got a view out from the quarry out to Mount Stewart, so you're engaging in that view. You've also got a natural amphitheatre already with the hill. I'm just saying these things because, again, it's back onto this idea of character of place and building up on those things so that we're not just bringing in a homogeneous product from, you know, which, I mean, obviously the problem with architecture is that we're really subject to the you know, the things have got to be built and money and all this sort of stuff. But the richness of that for the future of the city, to provide a thing that's got a huge amount of character that's generated from a local condition, is something that would be so rich and would make for such a better city, I believe. So there's a couple of projects there, but again, like, to me, it's back on character of place, and as artists, we all live and work here, and I think we're all engaged in that thing. And it really, if we can pull that together, you know, it should inform things like whether the rail sheds is a good thing or not. But you know, driving back on the rail sheds, I just wanted to also just comment. You know, there's still, it's on the periphery of the CBD, so that's one issue. But the other issue in my mind is that with those sheds is that they're not equivalent to the transformation of rail shed buildings in other areas, in that those sheds are basically just simple tin structures. They're not sort of things that you can convert into internal spaces. So you're talking about some beautiful spaces, but they are actually highly appropriate to the environment here because they're shaded and outdoors. So there's quality of space about those things that would be, again, really amazing if you could pull back those ideas of what that space is and work with that rather than against it. And that's where you're going to find, and Margot mentioned it before about the shipping containers, I mean, just, you know, having something that's locally generated, so whether it was some blockwork, simple buildings that were inserted into those spaces or whatever to create those things, but also work with what is down there rather than against it. You know, so those kind of ideas. But back on that thing of character of place and what the place is, and working with that all the time.